Good to
Doing.
see you as well. Absolutely.
Hey everybody, welcome to week 296 in the Austin Palmer awesomeness
I don't know about
in the
that.
house. Or he's joining us remotely. Are you in
Yeah,
Norfolk?
from now, yeah, I'm like an Instagram famous. Instead of the Maldives, I'm here in the Spring Hill Suites in Roanoke, Virginia.
Oh,
So,
Roanoke. Yeah, that's right. I knew it was Virginia. All right, cool. Thank you for joining us. Jack Santinello's in, and Adam gets a hall pass. I don't remember where he is today, but so anyway, but we have Austin for a very short sliver of time. So we're going to launch into this, and then Jack and I will continue on our lonesome selves uh, without Austin
so
because
what you're
he's got
saying
to
is
get.
the second half of the show will be much better. That's awesome.
No, it'll be a lot more boring because Jack's going to give us a bunch of dad jokes and
Uh,
I'll just, go with it. So, no, it's going to be a lot more interesting with you in it. But
love it.
say something, Jack. You're muted.
I'm ready, always ready with the
Oh,
backup. So yes,
I'm so sorry, people. You can harass us in the chat. You know what to do. Hit us in the Q&A. But we're going to talk about kind of maintaining. What do you do in the middle of chaos? And just when we think that things are going to be normal, no, 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 silly boy, things are not normal. So, Austin, before we get into like, we'll talk about some of the current events and some of the other stuff from a legal standpoint, maybe even tax stuff, what's going on because we're in the midst of peak season right now before April 15, et cetera. But and Austin, just little known fact. Also, weren't you a CPA?
I still am.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm
there
a
you go.
recovering CPA. I don't do tax returns. I pay smart people that like doing it to do mine.
isn't it like
There you
always a
go.
Marine, always a CPA kind of thing?
No, no. It's
No.
those of us who can take off and watch the NCAA tournament and those who work in a cube for 14 hours a day. Um, those are,
Right on. So Austin, you got your finger on the pulse, even though you are in the Spring Hill Suites in Roanoke. You do have your finger on the pulse of business owners and what's on their minds, as we do, because that's who you work with. Um, let's talk about maintaining kind of what are you hearing and what are you recommending to people in the midst of higher gas prices and all that kind of stuff.
um, I think is usually the case when the headlines get loud. My job is to help people kind of focus on what's the half-life of the information you're hearing, right? Is it good for a day, a week, a month, or a year? I think sometimes the loud headlines make people think, oh, well, this must be important. Probably not. I'm not saying it's not relevant or that they're not scary things, but I think the information we get is useful short term. I wouldn't upset the whole apple cart because of it.
Yeah, so you and I talked this week about some of the crazy stuff we hear from really smart business owners, really smart ones. Give us a couple examples that have come across your phone line and some of the rationale that you kind of fed back.
Um, Gas prices, and that's a particularly good headline because I think we're all conditioned to react to big numbers or big percentages.
Yeah.
So gas is, I'm just going to say $4 right now, or it was at the peak last week. And last year it averaged about 310. So that's nearly a 30% increase. Well, that sounds big. That sounds scary. But let's break it down and say, well, what's the actual impact? Most Americans buy about 600 gallons of gas a year. So that's $540 or about $10 a week. I'm not saying that's not important,
Right.
but am I going to rewrite my whole financial plan based on $10 a week? Probably not.
Yeah. Didn't you have a conversation with somebody about, "Man, time to buy electric," something like that?
Yeah, they wanted to buy an electric car to save on gas. So I kind of ran them through that. They'd had the same car for 6 years and had a total of 38,000 miles. So, we could round that to 6,000 a year. And in that case, they were spending, I don't know, maybe they got 25 miles to the gallon, 20 miles to the gallon. But I'm like, you're at about $5 a month. I have no problem with you buying the electric car. Financially, they're able to, but gas prices shouldn't be the impetus for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
can I throw out some
yeah.
quotes because this is, in reading articles and some other stuff. So, um, the event doesn't create the damage, the reaction does. Legal issues rarely come from the first move, they come from the rushed second move that nobody documented. The legal risk isn't geopolitical, it's operational. People start changing things quickly, pricing, suppliers, delivery timelines without checking what they've already agreed to do. So knowing what your contracts have to say, but knowing where the material weaknesses are and not overreacting. So, in the example that Austin gave, it is okay, are you overreacting because people are concerned about fuel prices? But if you're not driving your car and fuel prices don't affect your business, then focus on something else. And so it's very distracting in many cases. So, when I look at this and I talk to clients and they're very much in a panic, and it's a normal human reaction to get into a panic, but then you start making off the cuff decisions without being fully informed. And if you weren't rushed, you would probably hopefully make a more informed decision, but you feel like you need to react. And it is more of the feeling that I have to do something. Don't know what it is, but I know I have to do something. And in some cases, it may be, no, you really don't, because you've already done the things to fortify yourself and the other options that you might consider in making a change, whether it's a supplier, whether it is in renegotiating a contract in contract terms, may not be the best route to go. You may already be in the best position that you can be in. But the only way you know that is to kind of do an introspective view of what you got going on before you knee-jerk react into doing something that is going to be more detrimental to your business, to you, to your employees. So I throw that out there as kind of general context of all of this.
I love that quote. I had to write that one down. It's not the event, it's the reaction. Woo.
I concur.
I mean, you
I,
see it a lot, Austin.
um, I do. This is a difficult time for advisors because we're human too. So the headlines are screaming, the market's moved, but at the low last Friday, the market was off 7% from the high set in, late January, early February, and only 5% for the year. Again, I'm not saying that's not big, but contrast that with the market dropped 36% in a month during COVID and took 4.5 months to recover. That's more than a
Mm.
third of your value in a month. A year ago, with the tariff announcements, the market was down nearly 20%. Took 3 months to recover. So when we get these headlines, oh, we're at war. Oh, we're negotiating. No, we're not. Oh, they're going to surrender. No, they're not. It's this back and forth. There's that you feel like, exactly what Jack said. You feel like you should do something, and usually that's a mistake.
Yeah. And it
Can
is,
I
I mean,
illustrate something live? And I'm
yeah,
going to try this. So if I flub it, we've got a quarter here, right? So we all
yeah.
know this trick. So Jack, call it in the air. I'm going to flip it. Go. Heads or tails, Jack?
I muted heads.
Heads. All right, you were right. So we
Woo.
all know the math. right? It's 50-50. But what are the odds you get it right two times in a row?
Go for it.
See, we can try it, but
Let's try it.
all
Let's
right,
see.
go ahead, Jack.
And going heads again.
Heads again, heads again. So let's go three times in a row.
All right.
I'm sticking with it.
He's
Heads.
gonna be my stock picker.
Heads, man, I'm going to let this guy pick stocks. That's live. Three in a
His
row. Go
name is
again.
Nancy
Four
Pelosi.
for four. Heads.
4 for 4. It is 4 for 4.
Man.
Let's
Excuse
do it
me. I'll be
five for
back.
five.
Yes, heads.
Is it heads? It is
Heads.
heads. 6.
Yes, same.
Wow.
See, you're wrong.
Okay.
Ah,
So
I'm sorry.
the
I need
inter
to go check
you
with
should have.
Bet Kings.
uh,
I'll be back in a minute.
well, it's
Yeah.
better than you think. So each flip is 50-50, but two consecutive flips correct or two decisions correct is 25%. And three is 12 and a half, 4. So by the time we get to 7, you have a 1 in 128% or 128 tries of being right, less than 0.8%. That's the contrast that goes on. And that's what's hard for us. We want to make a move. We want to do something. But the more wanting to do, the more doing we do, oftentimes gives us lower odds of success. So the hardest thing is to sit still, recognize what it is, keep the long-term focus, and do nothing.
And to add to your example, you had me under the stress, which is I had to make a very split second
Mm,
decision and I got it right most of the time, but that is, I mean, I'm guessing
yeah.
because, I don't have, I mean, I guess this is not scientifically proven, but okay, what is the speed at which the rotation of the coin is going when you flip it? I mean, those ridiculous in this example, but those kind of things that you don't know that you're taking for granted or making assumptions, and you're making a lot more assumptions than you realize in making a decision if you don't have the information in front of you and you're being put under pressure to make those decisions. And then, say, well, I would also say some of the things I've been reading about is how people are making decisions, like, oh, we've seen this before. We've seen how, there's been stress on the market in other areas. We've seen how the threat of war has caused reactions. We've seen how tariffs have caused reactions, and we got through it. So this is kind of sort of the same thing. So we're really not going to do anything. That's an equally worse position and attitude to take, which is, each crisis is different um, at its core, even though it manifests itself maybe similarly. So, the one, the variable that is very overtly, obviously different is we have a channel that is closed for oil ships to move through, which is impacting, which has not happened, in our
Yeah.
prior crises over the past, 4 or 5 years or so. So different factors, but don't treat everything the same, or I should say, don't take the perspective that, well, it's similar enough, so what I did before is going to work this time.
That's right. That's right. Um, yeah, it is interesting though. The Strait of Hormuz is 20% of the world's oil, but it's about 45 or 50% of China's oil.
Right.
Short term, that's a headline, and that makes oil prices spike, and that affects everybody. But who does that really affect? I mean, it can't all be equal. If that's 50% of China's oil, probably impacts them more than anybody. If Europe imports most of their oil, probably impacts them
Yeah.
second. What about us? Is there an impact? Absolutely. But I don't think the impact is necessarily equal. And yet, right, the headline prices are up 30% or 20% of the world's oil production is not flowing. Okay. I bet the people in Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas are less impacted than the people in China, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I heard, I don't remember if it was this morning on the drive in or where, but they were talking about the price of gas and how it's far worse everywhere outside of the United States because of, we started drill baby drill again, and we've got more energy independence than a lot of these other places. So it's just interesting. But you hit on a topic that's interesting, and we've heard like headlines, right? Uh, and from the investing world, like, has it changed any of your strategies, with Keith and your whiz guys, which have done a great job for me? I've been very happy. Has it what kind of impact, what are you guys doing differently now, if anything, than you were 60 days ago?
So this gets into the weeds. I love this stuff. Keith loves this stuff. We have spreadsheets and discussions. Probably going to bore your audience, but Jack, you hit on something. Making us a decision under stress isn't always, sometimes you have to, right? So a trauma
Right.
surgeon has to, but they're trained to do it. We try and avoid that. So in a vacuum, the market falls 5% or more from a high one, two, three times a year. We know that. I mean, that's just the normal course of things. When that happens, we try to rebalance portfolios so that you're buying a little bit low, and then conversely, when it goes up, you rebalance and you sell a little bit high. That's a decision made ahead of time.
Yeah.
What if it goes down another 5 or 6%? We do it again, another. So if you think about it in the context of small micro changes, I'm going to use 2%. If it goes down 5 and I rebalance, 2% buys low. Goes down another 5, I do it again. Kind of the coin flip thing, right? There are 5 bullets there. What if I moved 10% of the portfolio? That's,
Yeah.
I mean, is that good? Yes. Is that prudent? Absolutely. But those decisions are made ahead of time. That is a rule. Um, and there's some other things in there, like occasionally it's down more than 5%. We rebalance, and the next day it's down a full another 5% in a day. One of our rules is we never rebalance 2 days in a row.
Ah,
Why? Mathematically, we should. Optically, it would scare the hell out of most people if they saw that much activity in back-to-back days. And it
uh,
would, mathematically, from a portfolio standpoint, it's the right thing to do. Psychologically, it might tip a few people into forcing our hand to sell. So we have to protect people from themselves. So I'll get calls and emails, and they'll say, "What are you doing right now?" And I'll tell them, but those decisions were made months, if not years ago, following a process.
yeah.
So that, to Jack's point, I don't want to make that decision under duress.
What are some common themes that you're fielding now? Or maybe it's all quiet on the Western Front. I don't know. I'm just presuming you're taking calls.
I think there are always calls, there are concerns. I think most people just want to hear it's going to be okay. It's not as bad, right? So when I talk about, well, the market's down 5 or 7%, and somebody with $1 million might be saying, well, that's 50,000 or 70,000. That assumes you're 100% stock. Very few people are, right? So if you were 60 or 70% stock, maybe you're not down 7% from your all-time high. Maybe you're down 4. Sometimes people just need to be reminded of that, right? Because the headline on their phone says market's down 7% from all-time high hit 6 weeks ago. And they
Right.
automatically extrapolate, oh my God, my $1 million has lost 70,000 in the last 6 weeks. And you go, you're down 37,300. I think sometimes just hearing that it's not that bad, things will be okay, reminding people of, I mean, I talk about COVID or tariffs last year. Good Lord, we could go Brexit, 9/11,
Yeah.
financial crisis, taper tantrum, flash crash, 87 crash, S&L crisis, Enron, Arthur Anderson, Kmart, Sears. I mean, I did a little digging. I kind of had this in my head, but I wasn't sure. If you invested $100,000 in the S&P on January 1st, 1983, what do you think it's worth today?
Hmm. In 1983, Jack, you take a guess and then I'll
I'm
I'll follow.
I am horrible at
I'm going to say $1 million.
handicapping.
Okay, so I did a little quick math in my head using the rule of 72, and I'm like, well, okay, it's 42-ish years, right? So at 10% return, which is what we read in the textbooks, right? That would be about six doubles, right? So we go 100 goes 200, 400, 8, million six, 3.2, 6.4.
Oh man.
And I was
That's
like,
way
whoa,
low.
okay. So that's where I was in my head. But then I thought, well, wait a second. If you were doing that, you'd reinvest dividends, right? So it's probably a little tick more if that 10% number is right. So I looked it up. It's $12.6 million dollars.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
43 years of 11.88. And I just listed seven things that moved the market, sometimes 5 or 10% in a day. Most of them more than 20% at once in a short period of time. And yet, decision fatigue is what would have cost people to miss out on that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Had to mess with that and got it wrong just a little bit. He probably didn't have anywhere close to that. Versus, I looked
Yeah.
this up too. I was just curious. So, what if I put the same 100,000 in cash? It's worth 500,000,
Wow.
right?
Yep, not surprised. Not surprised at that.
But
Well, let me ask you.
interestingly,
Okay, go
what if
ahead.
you did half and half, but you rebalanced, right? So obviously, if you had 50,000 in stock and let it ride, it would go to 6.25 million. But I'm saying rebalance, kept it 50-50 so that you're always
Right.
de-risking. You still ended up with about 2.7 million, 27 times your money in 43 years. That's not terrible in my mind, right?
No,
And that's what I'm getting at is I think most people need to hear stuff like that.
I agree. I remember 08, 09, right? Especially 08. I was in private equity at that time. And when what was a 700 point dip on like the 15th of September or something like that. I remember when it hit because we were on a plane and the airline captain mentioned it as we were getting off the plane. I'm like, whoa. And then I remember calling my wife and saying, pull it all out of the market and put it in mutual funds that were FDIC insured. Well, I kept it there for a long time until about 5 years ago. So stupid, stupid. But I had been very risk. I was risk tolerant in private equity, but then I mean, and that burned me too. Like I lost everything when that PE firm blew up. It's like it was just a calamity, and so I'm very risk averse. But like you need a wise counsel outside of your own head to help kind of get de-escalate it from the emotional standpoint. We're emotional beings, and I think Austin, that's one of the things I really like about having you on here is you've been around. You're not, some young buck that's decided, hey, I didn't want to sell cars anymore, or I got sick of whatever, so I'm going to go become a financial advisor. And hey, trust me with your money. You know, no disrespect to the young bucks out there that are grinding. You were a young buck, I was a young buck, so was Jack at one point. But I respect a steady hand that's been through some cycles and has some wisdom, which is why you're on here.
Well, no, and I appreciate it. It's now 27 and a half years. It's more than half my life. Um, that seems crazy to me. Um, but yeah, but with that comes, you mentioned Keith and certainly Brian and everybody in the firm, but those two in particular, any one of us could run, build, manage the portfolio. We could.
Yeah.
Um, there is something to be said for um, having all of us together because we're human too, right?
Right.
Um, there were a couple times where a few weeks ago I was like, we're almost at 5%. And that desire of just go ahead and rebalance. And
Uh,
Keith's like, hey, I'm cool with it, but you always say, wait. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, no, you're right, you're right, you're right. Um, and we did. We did. It's good to have somebody just that voice in your head.
Jack, you raised your hand. I
I
want to
did.
acknowledge
So
the hand.
I will embarrass myself and say that, okay, at my current age of 34, I kind of put my head in the sand. Add 2 decades to that. But but I'm still at an age in my mid 50s to be able to ride the wave, the ups and downs. Because I'm the same way. I look at okay, it went down this percent, it went up this percent. I really don't pay attention to that. But I know others that have the ticker running on their screens at the office,
Yeah.
the entire time,
Yeah.
or in their cars, or at their homes. They have it running on the TVs in their offices or even in their living rooms in some cases. So, are you seeing in older people reacting differently? And should they be, or should they kind of stay the course? Because we've talked about being overreactive, but are there certain scenarios where you would say, well, okay, if this, then maybe you should consider that. If you are heavy in a certain fund, type of fund, international, whatever. So the trends that you're seeing that might be more conservative than what an older person, 60, 70-year-old or so, who is already hopefully more conservative than someone, my age, but recommending that they make some changes, just generally speaking.
Generally, no. I love this question because the gut reaction is yes. But no. So my mother is 80. I'm 54. My daughter is 32. And I like this example. If you were to look at our retirement accounts, all the holdings are identical. And people, they go, what? But mom's about 40% stock. I'm about 75, 80% stock, and Leah's about 90% stock. The decision was already made based on mom's needs, withdrawal needs, required minimum distributions, age, risk tolerance. That determined the 40%. I'm not going to deviate for her just because the news cycle is high. It was already built to withstand better than, say, mine, right? Because she's older and needs the money. Um, Hopefully, we've made that decision well in advance for that exact reason. Does that answer your
Yeah.
question?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
Guys,
that's really good.
I have to go. Going
Yeah.
back to the long term, I mean, the market doesn't reward certainty. People think it does. It doesn't. It rewards discipline in the absence of certainty. And I think that's what people need to hear more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Austin, thanks for giving us time.
And thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always good to have kind of the Oracle of Roanoke join us.
That's right. The base of Mill Mountain Road and the Star. This is actually a neat town. We found some really neat restaurants while we were up here. So,
Oh, that's
anyway,
cool.
having a good time. All
All
right,
right.
guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
So, everybody, while Jack is doing a chat GPT on current events, I think we should do that. But I did put in the chat, and I'm going to put two things in the chat. The first thing is a registration link for the live 300th week anniversary coming up at the Hamilton in the Avid Exchange area of Charlotte, which is a cool event. It's such a fun one. But register while you can because we have limited slots available. We still have room. But please join us. There's no fee, and we'll feed you and we'll give you some fun. And we may even spin the disco ball above. So that's always a fun thing. So thanks for being part of this craziness for 6 years. And that's really what this is to celebrate you and give you some free, not advice, but you can stump the chump and ask us any questions, and we will do our best to answer those things and hopefully provide some value. But then I've got another link that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I want to first go to Jack's, Cliff Clavin's uh, current events trivia. And hey, maybe there's a Starbucks card from Shoemaker involved. I don't know. Go for it, Jack.
Okay. So, I actually, instead of kind of aggregating current events, I started thinking about people's reactions to all that's going on. And I was like, I started making my list and I put my list into ChatGPT and I said, all right, here are my thoughts of what the main things that are going on, how people are reacting, what they're thinking about, what else is out there, and then tell me how they should be thinking. And I gave it some examples. And so basically, hopefully prompted it correctly, prompted it with what the output I wanted. And so it resulted in a table. And it's a lot of the things that we have been talking about already, but I wanted to go through those things and just basically say, okay, there's maybe 12 things that are sort of interrelated, but it is the red flags and then what the actual disciplined response is.
Mm,
So,
good.
just to kind of pique your interest a little bit, I'm just gonna run through them. So, um, reaction: we need to do something right now. The disciplined response is let's define where we're actually exposed first. So, kind of what we talked
Yeah.
about previously, which is understanding do you have it covered? Do you not have it covered? Do you need to do something a little bit differently, but not a wholesale change of direction? Immediate pricing changes across the board, so very reactive in what you're selling in order to be able, this is similar to what was happening with tariffs. Can you sustain your current pricing model, or do you need to react in a certain way? So review contract terms, adjust only where permitted and uh, um, required. Switching vendors quickly, we've talked about. Informal agreements via email, text. Changes should be documented with consistent communication. We see not just in this period of time in reaction to this, but a lot of, okay, well, yeah, that's what the contract said, but we have email chain back and forth that we modified those provisions. Well, show me the email chain. Well, that counts as a writing, right? That we made the change. Possibly, maybe, but we need to see it. Um, Assuming that force majeure applies. So we've talked about that in the past, very intently during COVID, but does something out of your control uh, allow you to not perform on your contract, allow the counterparty to not perform on the contract? Making concessions to keep things moving, you could be basically giving away too much. And so evaluate the downstream impact before agreeing to stop the bleeding now, but then you're not worried about the infection down the road because you didn't properly treat the wound because you just covered it up without treating with antiseptic. I mean, that's just a bizarre example that just popped into my head. All right. Um, over promising timeline to customers. So encouraging communication and being truthful and not trying to, just be accurate and not try to hide any issues that you may have in performing on the contracts. We talked a lot about reacting to headlines, so responding to actual operational impact. So again, looking introspectively, understanding the headlines, digesting the highlights and the headlines, but then applying it to your business situation and not just doing something because other businesses are doing it. We've talked about this, kind of funny, it's on the list. That yeah, it's the same as it was before. We've seen this before. Ignore it. The recommendation is reassess exposure based on current facts, moving money or assets reactively. So Austin talked about that. And that's why I wanted to ask him, is there a generational difference, more specifically in the older generation, that they have to be even more conservative than they already were at their age because they have an age appropriate fund that they have had, professionals in their family that have advised them to. And, his answer was, what I hoped it would be is that if you've done it properly, then you will have already have anticipated this, and that anything that happens outside of third party kind of wars and conflicts are not going to have a devastating impact on a portfolio that was already created to be more conservative at an older age. Um, Acting to relieve anxiety, and the suggestion is acting to improve position. So just a couple of sound bites of things that have I've thought about, and other things that ChatGPT said you should also be thinking about these things, and this is how it is interpreted to appropriately, properly react, not overreact, and not detrimentally act. So,
Yeah, that's good. Uh, there was a quote that I was like, man, what is that quote? And I wanted to hit it while Austin was still with us, but it didn't. Um, if anybody knows the who made this quote without going to chat, without going to Claude, without going to Perplexity, without going to Gemini, without going to Google, there's probably a Starbucks gift card from Shoemaker, but um, the quote is known for as saying the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. Now, the longer version um, is buy when there's blood in the streets, even if the blood is your own. But the original quote was the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. Kramer. That's pretty funny. But no, it was not that. But no, I was thinking Kramer from Seinfeld. No, it was not Jim Kramer. This is, think aristocracy. Um, let's see if, oh, yeah, he does. He does say it all the time, but I'm going, we may have to give him kind of an honorable mention. I'm just saying.
okay. I could,
How about if we do this, Joseph? Come to the 300th week anniversary, and he'll give it to you in person, so you don't have to have some stupid, electronic version that they still honor, by the way. Um, so anyway, but here's what's interesting about that quote. Yeah, it's an investing principle, but also I think that it applies to opportunity. If you think about volatility, where he said he's behind on Starbucks.
What?
um, if you think about opportunity, opportunity comes in times of turmoil and uncertainty. We know people 6 years ago, unfortunately, that did not pivot fast enough, or they couldn't. Like in some cases, they couldn't, right? But we also know people that made a boatload of money because um, they were well positioned and they thought creatively, and they actually brought their team along with them to brainstorm, and they didn't try to do it in isolation. And so I just think there's some really interesting lessons about that. Um, and just as a teaser, I just spent about 2 hours. We were hosting an event here while CBEX was hosting a four-star general. So I had to choose to man the fort, and because we were a sponsor of Aquila Partners, they have a speaker series. So Ken Myers does a really good job, and we hosted it in our big training room. And there's a woman in town that her name is Brianne Brianne Byrne. She's with an AI company called Centauri, and it's not like, hey, they're building AI. What they're doing is they're helping companies leverage AI, which it was really interesting. So it was a full crowd. There's a lot of interest in AI. What do we do? And there's a lot of fear about AI. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do if I'm not current, and it's going to cost me a ton of money and blah blah blah. I mean, these are opportunities right now too. So we're going to do more on of a series on making AI work, and we'll have various people. There's some really interesting experts that we've got a hold of. We just finished a 4 week sprint. Three of us did, and it's about $4,000 a piece, so it ain't cheap. But with Tom Labat, Tom was on here. He in 3 minutes took my what was an app development work scope of work and all that kind of stuff, and even UI. And in 3 minutes, he had a working model using base 44. And then I needed it to do more, so he introduced me to Replit. Um, that has been really good. But I'm going to put this in the chat. He is doing it's $100, not $4,000, but it's like an hour and a half or two, but very practical stuff that you will walk away with. So he calls it from how to who. Um, and some of you may have, so I just put that registration link in the, let's see if that works though. I don't know. Hold on. Oh shoot. We've got all this security, man. It just goes so I have to go through. Uh,
I think people
uh,
can cut and it looks like it's the main landing page, and I think people can cut and paste that
all right,
into
cool. Yeah,
their
try it.
browser. So I'm
But
going to try it.
a number of us are signing up for that again. Um, and here's the thing that here, like I took many pages of notes from Brian, but one of the things that there she had four stages. One was driving productivity. This AI maturity. There are four stages, and we're talking about tools like ChatGPT, and now everybody, the cool thing and the more powerful thing supposedly is Claude, and that's what we also heard from AI Simplifier Group as well. But it's basically you're taking the you're prompt engineering. It's like, hey, let's go um, use it for research or whatever, and that's good. But that's kind of stage one. Then stage two is unlocking institutional knowledge across your firm, and it could be structured data like what you'd find in Salesforce or HubSpot or Oracle or SAP, some of your CRMs or ERP systems. And then there's unstructured, whether it be Teams, Outlook, files, and there's a ton of stuff that's going in that. But how do you unlock that? Stage three is really accelerating revenue and margin. And a lot of people will go, well, hey, I'm investing all this money. Where's the ROI? Well, typically it's not going to be in stage one as much. I mean, yeah, you can drive some productivity and you can get speed, but typically where you're accelerating revenue and margins, your workflows mapped, automation, and processing, automating processes, building analytics, et cetera. And then stage four is like scaling enterprise value. I thought that was really good. So just a shameless plug for Brian and Centauri. It's Syntari. But we may have to get her on here too. So anyway, and she also had a 90-day plan that I thought was really good. First 3 days, do an audit of the current state, identify 2 to 3 high flow, high volume workflows, and then establish a use policy before you build. Oh, I mean, Jack, have we talked about, like plan before you just get in the car and go drive? Hey, we got to go somewhere fast. Yeah, but where are we going? I don't know. Just get in the car. Well, that's probably not the best strategy. And I think a lot of people are actually doing that with AI right now too. Get in the car, we're going to miss out. Well, what's the objective? What are we actually trying to do? And then day 30 to 60 is organize data sources, assign data, an owner of the data, and then pilot one agentic use where, she talked about agentic meaning you've got an agent that's actually doing stuff like you're asking on the prompts on stage one, whether the chat or um, Claude, et cetera, but you're still having to do the stuff. An AI agent is actually like a human doing stuff. And then within that first 90 days, you've got to be building some governance framework and define how it's going to be measured. What's success look like? I mean, these are really kind of basic things. And then, but they said what this was interesting. By the end of next year, 75% of hiring will include an AI proficiency testing. 75% is what they're saying. They said that so electricity from its inception to where it really revolutionized the world was 50 years. They said AI will do that in 5. And I believe that. I mean, based on all the people. So it's like, well, hey, you could be really scared, but it's not going to do everything. I mean, there's a reason you can't get in your Tesla, and I've got the full self drive, which I love it. But if I get into a wreck, it's not the car's fault. It's my fault. I'm still responsible for making sure. And there are times on my trip to Alabama last weekend that I had to go, nope, no, I don't know what you're thinking, but no, we're not going that way. Getting off the highway, no, we're not going there. I know where we're going to Alabama, and that off road is not going to take us there. So, I mean, as humans, we still have this. The final thing that I thought was really worth listening to, and 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 everybody, and there were a lot of AI people in this room, but they said because of AI, experiences will grow exponentially. Like in-person human experiences will grow exponentially. AI is good, but like we can't even believe the news. Um, AI degrees are no longer IT degrees, but English degrees. Oh, and Joseph, you would know. I mean, like you're bleeding edge guy here. I think that's probably true. But think about the experiences. There was a woman in this seminar, like afterwards, we were talking about what people do and whatever. And she said she's very big on human psychology and interpersonal conflict resolution and that sort of thing. And like her business is going to blow up, but also retreats, things where we are experiencing life and human interaction, that will grow exponentially. So I think that's a good thing, and I think we need to keep that balance in what we do. So another plug, I'm bringing that back around to the 300th week anniversary. Come on and show up.
Yeah, let's do it. And I you have to embrace it. I mean, I'm not an early adopter, but I'm also a nerd. So even this morning, one of our IT guys here said, "Hey, we're uh, running through some integrations with AI into our systems. Would you mind being the typical lab rat, essentially, and
Ah,
testing this
you'd be
stuff?"
good.
Yeah, and he tried to, stroke my ego a little bit. He says, because I know you like new shiny things technology wise and being the one of the few that has the stuff that you can try out. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, you win. So but I mean, I just see the expectations I am seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing, and I'm sure other people on the line are seeing, their customers or others who they interact with coming at them with, hey, in anticipation of us doing this deal, here are my thoughts. And they're not thoughts. They are, proposed full documents on the agreement and specific provisions, which they admit that, okay, well, I'm not intending to write the agreement, but this is just kind of what AI produced for me when I asked it certain questions. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But for increasing the return of work product within your organizations and analysis of things. I tend to use it more also for gut checking. So when I draft a document and I'm dealing with a certain provision or something, I will run it through AI when I'm done, our internal AI, and say, all right, did I miss anything related to this topic? And um, I very proudly but modestly report that so far I've done pretty good at capturing everything. But that's because I'm also doing it old school. When there's a specific term, for example, preferred equity, and we're removing the preferred equity provisions from a document, all you really have to do is look for the word preferred in a document. And if it appears, then you've missed one. And if it doesn't appear, then you've got it good. So those kind of things. But I'm just suggesting that the expectations of your customers and clients are that you're going to utilize these tools. Now, the trick is, how does that translate financially? Is their
Yeah,
expectation then that they are like, oh, well, my bill should be less? Well,
right,
have you thought about our costs of obtaining this Mac Daddy software that is assisting
right.
us? So really, the goal is to make a better document for you, yes, efficiently, but we have cost incurred with moving in that direction that you may not have thought about as being a replacement cost of spending less time necessarily on a matter, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour that you're spending less. So that's kind of what we're seeing, and we're just kind of getting used to it and sort of, I shouldn't say complaining about it, but yes, sort of complaining about it. Like, okay, yeah, I had another client that, basically said, here, we believe that this is 90% done. It's like, nope, not anywhere near it because there's so many flaws with the document. And you would prefer for us to start with our core document rather than trying to fix this one because it's going to cost you more for us to spend time fixing it than if we start with our own document, which we're comfortable with, and modify it and personalize it for your purposes. So anyway, that's my mini little rant since Adam's not here about random stuff.
Well, so speaking of law firms, this was an interesting stat from today's AI workshop or seminar, really. Um, she had a stat from this last year, and this is based on Centauri's client engagements across industries, but she cited an 85% reduction in contract review time for law firms using AI-powered document analysis. Well, it was interesting because somebody in the group said, well, I would disagree because all the law firms that I know are like, no way, no AI. Well, and the speaker said, well, they're going to be the ones that are the dinosaurs. They are going to be left behind. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But even there, like she talked about the need for layering human interaction for yes, you can have it, but it's like, hey, don't just get in the Tesla in the back seat. First of all, it won't let you do that because it's got a camera looking to see if you're there and if you're watching. And if not, it'll put you in the naughty chair and it'll shut it off, as a matter of fact. Not that I would know that, but
So
yeah.
you've heard from a friend.
I have heard, I read about it from somewhere on the internet. No, I actually experienced it. Um, but same thing with this, anything that we're doing, she also, this was an interesting little tidbit for y'all, practical advice. You ask Claude or you ask ChatGPT to do some research for you and it spits back this thing. First of all, she says, never take the first round as it is. Never take the first round. But she said, ask this in the prompt. On a scale of 1 to 5, five being the worst, one being the least, how would you score the hallucination or the hallucination factor of your response? And it'll give it back.
Wow, that's
If it's a
crazy.
5, that's no good. If it's a 1, that's better. So, um,
So it's basically telling you how much it made up. Like, yeah, okay, well,
exactly.
there's
And
this
she
amount of
said,
BS in the response.
yeah. And someone else, and like I've heard this in the last 2 weeks, Claude is like already leaps and bounds above chat. And there'll be another leapfrog that we probably don't even know about that will make Claude irrelevant. It's like, think of the .com race, the people, pets.com, or whatever. Hey, are they still around? I don't know. But a lot of these, it was an arms race. It was a land grab, if you will. That's still happening right now in AI. And there are a lot of players that are going to go bankrupt, like March 1st and some of these other aggregators back in the .com craziness. But so someone asked the question, well, I've got all my deep profile that I've been training Chat GPT for the last year. And I keep hearing I probably need to move to Claude. Am I going to have to redo everything? And the speaker said, well, remember, these are computers. They don't have feelings and they don't even feel territorial. So you can ask Claude, hey, what's the extract prompt I should be doing? Oh, that's good to know. Gronk is in my Tesla. I haven't used it yet though, but thanks for that information, Joseph. Um, but go to Claude and say what's the prompt I should, what are write for me the prompt so that I can extract all the stuff that I had in Chat GPT, and then go do Chat GPT and say, hey, I want to move all this stuff over to Claude. What should I do to do it? And it's not going to be like a human, like, hey, wait a minute, you're taking your business somewhere else. Well, screw you. No, it's not doing that. It's a computer that has no feelings. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So anyway.
That is interesting that that is available because I would think that competitors would try to do things to make it difficult and modify the underlying language so that it's proprietary, kind of like what Apple did with its M4Ps, right? So they're not MP3s, they're M4Ps, and so you have to have the certain um, I mean, they made the translators for it, so those kind of things. And so, but yeah, that's very interesting because you would think that there would be less of that. I'm curious to see how accurate the translation is, for someone who did that and then started using the new platform and to see if it remembered all the things that it should have, and it was programmed correctly. But yeah, I mean, these AI agents are not going to say, "What can I do to keep your business?" So nothing like that.
So, for anybody that didn't read it, read what Joseph said, or I'll read it for you. Gronk is the best AI tool for consumers of search, which most, if not everyone on this call are, including myself. It's best to use apps of software using the four top AI platforms to conduct your searches. Um, Another thing that was interesting was they said that Chrome and Claude work really well together. So if you're in Chrome and you're feeding and doing searches in Chrome, you can like have Claude analyze certain things. So again, man, I mean, we're just crawling here. But she said, even when I made that statement, she said, but you're probably in the top 1%, even though you're crawling. Um, So who knows? I don't know what that percentage is. I'm sure we could ask any of the AI platforms and it would give us a hallucination with decimal points of about 10 things after the decimal point. But anyway, so hey, we're at top of the hour. Thank you, Jack, again. Belated thanks to Austin. Thanks to all of you guys. Um, for joining us. Joseph, thanks for joining in on this thing too. By the way, I think I got scammed. I said go to use.ai, which supposedly goes across all four of those things, but it's not available on my phone, and I do most of my stuff on my phone, so I think I got scammed. Anyway, um, there are prices to pay in trying to learn, but anyway. Jack, have a good one. And please join us in 4 weeks. Take care, y'all.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.